What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Wonder Woman 1984 Spoiler Edition. Now, if you like what you see on my channel, of course, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button and comment below any video that you watch, including this one. So, for anybody who celebrates Christmas, Merry Christmas. Everyone else, have a happy holidays. At this point, Wonder Woman 1984 has released on Christmas Day, and at this point, a lot of people have seen this movie, so me spoiling this movie, if you haven't seen it, please check out my spoiler-free review. I hope I did justice with that. So Wonder Woman 1984, in its nutshell, is about a crystal that has the ability to grant wishes, and it's a very Aladdin-esque type of material because we have this crystal that's like from a god that Wonder Woman knows about, and Maxwell Lord basically wants the crystal in essence to basically become a god. He's like the Jafar of this movie. He wants to basically grant all the wishes, grant all the power, because he's a guy that is basically a shuckster, a con man. He's like basically all this money that these people have given him, he's basically thrown it out the window or burned it. And he is kind of a guy on his wit's end. He has a son who he really loves, but he is a very over-the-top and silly and goofy villain, of course played by Pedro Pascal. But I really love this villain in the essence of how his character kind of is portrayed, where Pedro Pascal, who we know for doing kind of over-the-top villains in like Kingsman: The Golden Circle, and then he of course did The Mandalorian and stuff like that. He's a guy that is just chewing scenery left and right. The way he talks to people, the way his like hair is always kind of out of control, and he wears these like 80s suits and stuff like that. He wants this crystal and he wants to use it to control the world. He wants to bring prosperity to his company, which is gold something, whatever it is, gold lord or something like that. And in the process, he has to go and retrieve this crystal because there has been a botched robbery from this jewelry store, thanks to, of course, Wonder Woman Diana Prince, who officially comes into the movie at that point. So we also have the Kristen Wiig character, the Cheetah character, I think it's Betty or something like that, and she is basically the keeper. She's come into the Smithsonian, she's the keeper of all these items that were a black market thing going on, and she has the crystal that Maxwell Lord wants. He's been, paid to have it brought to him. And so she is basically conned from Maxwell Lord he takes the crystal and he basically wishes that he was the guy granting the wishes. And throughout the movie, he becomes more and more powerful. You can start to see the Toll's effect on him. He basically takes over an oil baron. He takes over like the president of the United States. And he's a character that just is a very over the top Lex Luthor style villain. So when his character eventually ends at the end of the point of this movie, he is basically all powerful. He's controlling this like NATO style area. He's on television. He's telling everybody to make wishes so he can take all their souls and become more and more powerful. And he has to be convinced through Diana Prince, who uses the lasso of truth, to basically tell everyone that because the wishes, because they have like a monkey's paw effect to it, where they have a double meaning behind it. Whatever you wish, behind the kind of almost like Loki style world and thing like that kind of affects him. And so he has to renounce his wish and he has to go find his son and stuff like that he's been neglecting. But his character in a nutshell is just this very over the top goofy villain that actually had a better character arc than I was expecting. His character is just like, it's so strange and so like chewing scenery that you just kind of go with it. You kind of like love what Pedro Pascal is doing, and it's just a fun villain. It's an entertaining villain, and he does a lot with I'm sure the character that you see in the comic books. But I think he's one of the more fun villains that you see in the DC universe and so on and so forth. So I like Maxwell Lord. I like what Pedro Pascal is doing in this movie. I like the kind of the effects that are causing him to deteriorate, and he's trying to gain more and more power, but it's causing, he grants everyone's wishes and stuff like that, and he like cons people into like wishing stuff for him. And to see the effects and see like the chaos, the end of the world type of stuff, it's a lot of fun. So, and then like I said, we have the Kristen Wiig character. She plays the Cheetah Betty. I think it's Betty or Barbara or something like that. And she is an individual that's very much like Electro, very much like the Jamie Foxx character, where she's looked down upon. She's a very nerdy character. She's actually a lot like also the Guy Pearce character in the Iron Man 3 and stuff like that. So I wasn't like truly high on her character because her motivations are very similar to what we've seen before. But when I said in my spoiler-free review that she's very, very inspired. It's because Kristen Wiig doesn't do these kind of roles, or she hasn't done these kind of roles. So to watch her kind of go from this frumpy, nerdy character to the cheetah character where she becomes and she takes over Diana Prince's powers by wishing that she was as strong and as sexy and, as powerful as Diana Prince, where she ends up gaining all those powers. It's a fun role to see Kristen Wiig kind of just become evil and mean and kind of she's misguided in a lot of respects because she's the kind of woman that just has no confidence in herself. So when she takes all these powers and uses that crystal to gain powers, it's really kind of an interesting arc to see. The problem with her character is kind of like every other character like Electro or the Guy Pearce character, her kind of third act, which is where she is kind of the tertiary villain and stuff like that. She fights Diana Prince in the gold outfit. And there is a point where it's really cool to see Kristen Wiig just doing badass stuff. But she wishes through Maxwell Lord, which I only thought she only got one wish. But she wishes to Maxwell Lord that she could become an apex predator. So throughout most of the movie, she's just your typical badass, kicking ass type of woman. And then as like a convenience type of thing, she turns into an apex cheetah predator, like an actual CG predator, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere in the third act. And that's why I said the third act kind of falls apart, because it just comes out of nowhere. And her turning into this like creature, it just doesn't make any sense. And it's not saying like it would ruin the thing, because it's definitely not the Hades thing, but it's like you don't plot yourself very well. There's some really scripting problems, and why she became the Cheetah character is not fully explained. It's just, I wish this, and all of a sudden she becomes Cheetah, and she gets electrocuted similar like Catwoman in Batman Returns, but she lives, and who knows what is going to happen to her character. So I don't know. It was a really, really weird kind of character arc, but like I said, Kristen Wiig is a lot of fun in it. She's, having a good time, and she is a very inspired choice with what Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns and all those people, producers and stuff like that, picked for her, because you wouldn't expect somebody like Kristen Wiig to have be a villain, and she did a pretty good job. So I give her a lot of credit. That third act, that whole scene where they're fighting in front of the NATO area, it's just really weird. So, but I'm sure you're all wondering, how is Steve Trevor in this movie? And I thought it was kind of inspired, kind of funny how they did it. Steve Trevor's dead. I mean, she's been pining. Wonder Woman Diana Prince has been pining for Stephen Trevor for a while, for 40 years, which is very strange. Like, that's why the whole 1984 is always a strange thing to have. But what they do is they have basically Diana Prince, without realizing what she's doing, wish for Stephen Trevor to come back to life. She has his pocket watch, which starts ticking again. And kind of like Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap, Steve Trevor kind of quantum leaps into another man. And it's a very kind of funny, idealistic, kind of interesting idea where we see the guy that he kind of leaps into in the beginning of this movie when he kind of shows himself to Diana Prince. What makes it funny is he's basically that guy that he's transported into, but then we see the transformation over to Steve Trevor, the Chris Pine character, and even though we know the guy is there, but we are given the ability to see Chris Pine, so it's a very kind of easy way to make the character, or I should say the audience, kind of get on board with Chris Pine being in this movie. But the fact that they made him basically in another person's body is a very interesting idea. It wasn't what I was expecting, but that crystal, that whatever that thing is, it really kind of makes sense of why he's even in this movie, because as this movie goes along, as he kind of awes and oohs over the 1980s, stuff like that, there's a kind of over the top and strange scene where they take a jet plane that was in the Smithsonian that for some reason has fuel still in it, which is the whole point when they're flying and stuff like that, and they have to fly to Cairo to stop Maxwell Lord. It didn't make a lot of sense to me how a plane like that could fly straight to Cairo, which is a very far distance from Washington, D.C., on that small tank of gas in a fighter jet, which, they're not wearing helmets and stuff like that. She's able to use her power of creating invincibility to make the plane disappear, which is a really cool thing. It's a really cool nod to, Diana Prince and the Invisible Mobile and stuff like that, the machine or the invisible car that she has. But it doesn't make a lot of sense how that works. That's your leap of logic jump that you need. That's your plot holing thing that goes on. Is the simple fact that they're able to fly this jet, which, has over the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean, wherever they fly over. It's going to run out of gas at some point, but they're able to get to Cairo on one take of plain gas. And, like I said, if you can get past the leaps of logic, you're already having fun with the whole idea of, Wonder Woman taking on all these cars and stuff like that. And, of course, Kyra and stuff like that you see in the trailer. I think you can just get on board. And the fact that there's a crystal in this movie, it's very magical and stuff like that. That's why the leaps of logic kind of, you either are on board with it or you're not. So there's going to be people that really hate this moment where they take the plane and stuff like that. But like I said, I enjoyed it. I just, there's no logic there at all. It's one of the problems of the movie. There's like leaps of logic, and there's some dialogue, and there's some like moments with Diana Prince stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense. So, and then we come to Diana Prince herself, Wonder Woman. She has a very Superman type role in this movie where she starts losing her powers because the effects of her wishing for Steve Trevor to come back to life, because he ends up being kind of sent away. He goes back to the afterlife and stuff like that because she has to basically relent her wish that she made. The idea of her like losing her powers, becoming kind of mortal a little bit, is very much similar to like, Clark Kent giving up his powers and stuff like that. That's why I said this movie feels very much like Superman and Superman 2, where a lot of the aesthetics, a lot of the humor, a lot of the kind of goofiness feel, the stuff that Diana Prince is going through is very of what I think Patty Jenkins was going for, which is make something as more of an homage to the Richard Donner, Richard Lester films that were back in the 70s and 80s. Because at the very end of this movie, the President of the United States wants more nukes. So he gets his wish, and Maxwell Lord takes over, whatever he does. And there's a point where everybody relents all their wishes because of, what Diana Prince does to Maxwell Lord. And all of a sudden, everything starts reversing back in time. And I'm like, that's a clear homage to Superman 1 when he reverses the planet and everything goes back to normal. But I think it's more fun and more entertaining than what happened in Superman, the original movie. But I think the whole idea of Diana Prince trying to get past her whole, having to deal with Steve Trevor not being there, the fact that it's like 40 years later, like I said, it's a really hard thing to kind of be on board with. But I think her kind of motivations, her, being a good person, being the person of truth, justice, and stuff like that, and to see her kind of move forward and to, eventually get to the point that she gets to in, like, of course, Justice League and Batman vs Superman, it's a very kind of interesting kind of character arc. It's very similar to, we see like at the beginning, we see all the Themyscira stuff like that. But I think what Gal Gadot has done with Wonder Woman has been a very inspired idea, very inspired casting choice. I think she's kind of taken on the role and just kind of run with it. The very beginning with the mall stuff, and like she saves a young black girl, and it's a really fun, cute moment. And just how she kind of feels like a person that is important to the people, important to an audience of young girls and young adult females, stuff like that. She's a very inspired character. And to watch her kind of be with Steve Trevor, who she loves wholeheartedly, to see how she has to stop everyone, to see how she has to be the hero that some people don't want to be. It's very, very fun to watch and very entertaining. So that's what makes the movie's heart work and that's why I think Patty Jenkins and the writers did a really nice job with continuing her character. Like I said, the aesthetics of the 80s and so on and so forth, it's fun, it's goofy, it's entertaining. There's very, very much a lot of stuff with like, the way they dress and stuff like that. There's a really funny scene when Steve Trevor and Diana Prince go down an escalator in Washington, D.C., and he's just reacting to the Mohawk kids and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that makes this movie work. And like I said, it gets to the end, of course, with Diana Prince kind of telling everybody that what they love and what they believe in is something that, you want, but sometimes you just can't have. And we see her heart kind of break when she has to give up Steve Trevor and stuff like that. But to see her kind of fly through the air, to see her kind of, she's starting to mend and she's starting to, push past, not having Steve Trevor, even though she'll always love him, is what makes the movie's heart work. So, but that's pretty much the whole movie is around this crystal that Maxwell Lord wishes to be in himself, and he uses his power to gain momentum and gain power and stuff like that. And then we, of course, Cheetah, she's more like the tertiary villain, even though I like what Kristen Wiig's doing in here. And, of course, Steve Trevor and his logic and reasoning for coming back is fun and entertaining. But like I said, all the kind of gratitude and stuff like that, definitely you have to give Patty Jenkins most of it, because she is a director who was kind of almost felt like she was blacklisted for the longest time. She had done Monster and did some TV work later on, but this is kind of her stepping stone into a AAA world, an A-list director, and she knocks it out of the park once again with this movie. So that's my spoiler review of Wonder Woman 1984. I hope I was somewhat coherent when I was talking about it. As you've seen this movie now, what is your favorite part about this movie? Like I said, the stuff in the White House is a lot of fun. The stuff in Cairo is a lot of fun. The idea of them just being very, going homage into the whole Superman territory is a lot of fun. So, but that'll do it for my spoiler-filled review of Wonder Woman 1984. Once again, happy holidays to anyone who doesn't celebrate Christmas. Merry Christmas to all who do. Otherwise, if you like what you see on my channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.